So Britain needs a business plan, and today the Business and Trade Committee have set out what that could look like. The struggle for growth is going to define this Parliament. The Prime Minister has set out some really ambitious targets for our country to become the fastest growing economy in the G7. That is difficult, but what we've heard from business is that it is possible. Without doubt, business has felt the pain from the budget, but what we heard from the business community is that they're optimistic. They're optimistic about political stability, they're optimistic about the transition to a net zero future, and they're ambitious about digital and artificial intelligence. We've travelled the country talking to the business community along with trade unions and consumer groups about what they see as the key things that are needed to now unlock that opportunity for the future. And today, our committee has published a new report that sets out what we've heard and the things that we will focus on as a committee over the next year. We've heard that business and trade unions and consumer groups basically need 5 big things. They need government to unlock new markets. That means an ambitious reset with the European Union and fast-tracking free trade deals with India, Switzerland and the Gulf Cooperation Council. But we also need to be using government demand to help support our businesses better too. So unlocking government procurement for firms, both big and large here in the UK, was priority number 1. The second big thing we heard was the need for workers. Everywhere we went, business told us about how difficult it was to get the talent and workforce that they needed. People want to see ambitious reform of the apprenticeship levy, common sense on visas, sense on things like IR35, and crucially, we need to make it easier for businesses to be able to get workers from where they live, in homes that they can afford, to workplaces where they can thrive. The third big thing then was around access to finance. We heard a fairly sanguine story about access to startup finance. What business everywhere told us is that it's really difficult to get scale-up finance. And so very often our boldest firms get scooped up, refinanced and taken off to countries like the United States, rather than being able to grow to become the biggest firms in the world here in the United Kingdom. The next big area that business wants to see action on is around planning, infrastructure, whether that is digital infrastructure, regional transport infrastructure, and crucially, much lower energy bills in the future. People are all for us transitioning to net zero, but they do need to see that at a lower cost than they're experiencing today. The fifth big area of reform is around innovation and ideas. We've got world-class universities in this country. We've got world-class thinkers and idea makers, but we need to do a much better job at moving that innovation from labs in universities to the shop floor of our businesses up and down the land. So things like knowledge transfer partnerships were seen as something that needed to be much more widely available than perhaps they are today. The final piece of the puzzle is that business, trade unions, consumer groups alike want to hear our government tell a nationally ambitious story about the future. Business is optimistic about the years to come. They want government to build on the stability that they've got, but they want a bold and imaginative story about where we're going as a nation. Crucially, they need a strategy to back that story. They need government to work much more cohesively together. They're a little bit sick and tired of one bit of government doing one thing without any reference to another bit of government somewhere else. And by and large, business would like to see a lot more devolution to our mayoral areas than perhaps we have today. So there we are, really clear set of messages. And what that means for us on the Business and Trade Select Committee is we've got a clear year's worth of work ahead of us. So we're going to do big inquiries on the big bits of legislation that are in our area, so the Employment Rights Bill and the Corporate Governance and Audit Reform Bill that are coming up. But we'll also be looking at industrial strategy, export-led growth, we'll be looking at access to finance, and we'll be looking at small business policy too. If you've got thoughts on any of this, we would love to hear from you. Please stay in touch. You can find all the details of our inquiries on our website. Thanks very much for everyone who's participated in this huge engagement exercise that we've been through as we've travelled the country. Thank you very much for helping us get the report right that we published today.